going to go through now and explain how to use the Tanita scales and obviously understanding what the readings are. Now from the picture there you can see there are a number of different Tanita scales out there, but basically we use the Tanita for the biometric readings. This is the model we have on the right, the BC545. They brought the new one out now in the middle, which is the N, but there's also the 601. Obviously this will change as they bring out the new dates, but the actual readings and how to interpret the readings would pretty much stay the same. Where to get the machines? Well, if you go onto the retail-training.co.uk website, look at tools for the jobs, and on there we've put a link to where we've found so far is the cheapest place to buy them. Obviously if anybody finds anything else that is cheaper, we'll update the site as well. So you've got one point of call to go for all the information and to get all the things on the scales. So let's go through this. Well, why do we use biometric scales for clients? Well, the first thing is really it impresses people. The whole reason to get people to come round for a wellness evaluation, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the scales are very impressive. Most people have never had a biometric scan, so they don't know what their percentage of body fat is. Some people might have had caliper tests at one stage, but the calipers will only measure the fat underneath the skin and not obviously around your internal organs, which is why the scales are great. So because people haven't done it, it's something new, so it's a reason for them to come and have a go. The other thing is weight loss. It's very important that when you're losing weight that you maintain lean muscle mass and you target body fat. So many diets out there, you restrict your calories, your body finds it easier to turn muscle into energy than it does fat, so you can be losing weight on the scales, but you're losing the critical thing that you've got to hold on to, which is muscle mass, and you still have the body fat. So when it comes to the finish of the diet, they could have hit their target weight, yet they've still now got more percentage of body fat respectively, and they can burn less calories than before they started because they've lost muscle mass. That's why Herbalife is so important, that we're actually maintaining that muscle mass, and the scales are a fantastic way of showing that people might just lose a little bit on the scales, but their body fat's gone down and their muscle mass has gone up. That's what we want to do, is change people's physiques to having more muscle content so that they can improve their calorie output. So the scales are great for showing that. People get more excited about the metabolic age that's on there as well. So again, it's another one of the clever reading that's on there that most people tend to focus on. Now, if they're on there, you might find that people's measurements and things change. And this is why the scales are so good, that it shows you that they're going to be losing the body fat and increasing that muscle mass. So where to find the details? Well, basically there's going to be a page on here. The information for the test sheets that we've got are just below this video. But I'm going to talk about wellness evaluations. So if you go onto the retail training site, click on retail support, and then you've got the wellness evaluations button here. It's got all the details and information on why to run and how to run a wellness evaluation. So that's very, very important. So let's look at one of the tracking sheets. So this is the sheet that we've put together that's got all the Tanita readings on there. And again, this is just below this video if you want to get a copy of this. The beauty of this is 12 weeks is what we're going to give people, because it takes 12 weeks to really transform somebody's body. You can make a massive difference in that period of time. Now, these were done initially for the 12-week challenges that we have, the clubs, but you can run a 12-week challenge by Facebook, over the internet, by people popping round. So they're a great way of doing things. So obviously we've got the details on there, and then it goes through body fat, weight, resting metabolic rate, metabolic age, percentage of water, visceral fat, bone mass, muscle mass, and body type. I'm going to go into more detail on those in a second. And then obviously underneath it tracks it how to do it. And it also does measurements. Measurements are very, very important when doing this, because it's more important for the fat loss and shape change, because that's what people come to us for. Now on the back of that sheet you'll find all the details, which explains a little bit more about what the Tanita scale readings are and where the ranges are for different people. So what we want to do is, the idea of everything that we do in Herbalife is getting people to, one, eat less, move more, and eat healthier food. So we want to get their body fat into a nice healthy range. So it's split down between male and female. Obviously women have more storage areas, so they're allowed more body fat. And then it's got the low, normal, high, and too high. Now the World Health Organization say if you're in the red, you're in the too high. It's up to 40% at least more likely to get diabetes, heart disease, or certain types of cancer. So it's critical for having somebody to have a healthy body fat to be healthy. So what we want to do is target people in the green range. This is the normal for the different age groups. So our average client probably mid-30s to mid-40s. So they're between the 23 to 33% range in the green. That's a target. If they do loads of sport, then it might be that they'll be in the yellow range slightly underneath. Same for the guys. This one, the body fat area, it shows you an outline of where the fat deposits are on the skin. So I'm going to go through in detail and explain a little bit more about what these do. So let's look at them. The first one we're going to get is the percentage of body fat. So this is just an overall reading of how much body fat is in total within the body. Now that will include the visceral fat, but that gives us a separate reading as well. So that's what we go off as a percentage of overall body fat. The weight, obviously you can set the scales as well, so you can do them to, you can do pounds, kilos, or stones and pounds, whichever one suits you and your clients. Resting metabolic rate. Now this is the number of calories that the body will burn at rest. So without exercise, and if you just kind of do your normal daily thing, that you're not running around and going down the gym, that's how many calories you will burn at rest. The metabolic age is something that it basically compares your metabolism to somebody of a natural age group of where they should be. Now, you might find people, and we had some of the people that were quite fit actually, and their metabolic age was too high because of the visceral fat they had internally because of carb loading. So it's one of the things that people do, and it'll shock some people. We've had, I think the worst one we've had was a 32-year-old that came out at 68. And so that's what they focus on, is really bringing that down, and that's a great thing to have in there. The hydration. Now the hydration is an indicator. It's not something that you want to focus on too much from, and I'll explain why in a second. But if we go back to the slide that shows you where the hydration levels will be, I'll show you what they should be. So down here it's got male, females 45 to 60% hydration, male 50 to 65%. Now here's why you don't focus on this. If you have a client that's overweight, then that means they have too much body fat. Actually, body fat has very little water in it. When the biometric scales work, they can tell what muscle it is by the type of hydration that it has. So when it's doing its calculations, that's how it works. So if somebody is, let's say, 40% body fat, then there's no way they're going to be able to hit their natural hydration levels, because 40% of their body is fat, which doesn't actually contain a lot of water. So their hydration levels is something to show you that where it is, and make sure that it's the same or it's getting slightly better each time. It will fluctuate a little bit depending on what kind of week they've had, whether they've been drinking the water, how hot it's been outside, if they've exercised. Women, if it's that time of the month, then obviously they get more. It can affect that as well. So the hydration side is something that it gives an indicator. Don't focus on it. Don't try and get people to hit their hydration by saying you're not drinking enough water. They could be drinking 10 gallons a day and still never hit their hydration if they have too much body fat. So the next one on there is going to be visceral fat. Now this is probably one of the most important ones on there, because you can have subcutaneous fat, which is the fat between your skin and your muscle. That doesn't kill you, that just defines your shape. You can see that, everybody can see that. Now the visceral fat is something that hides underneath your muscle. So underneath your rib cage and around your internal organs, that's where visceral fat is. It's good to have a little bit in there, but not too much. Now people that are overweight with high visceral fat that has to fill the rib cage, so the only thing that can give is the lungs. So the lungs get smaller and smaller, or their ability to move gets smaller and smaller, so their capacity is reduced. And this is why people that have high visceral fat tend to be out of breath so often, because their lung capacity is reduced and the heart's having to pump twice as hard to try and get the oxygen and blood around the body. So that's why visceral fat's the killer. It's the one that people don't see. It's the one that footballers, I think 2 years ago, the Celtic football player keeled over and died. They did the body scan and they had high visceral fat, so they were carb loading for the energy, doing loads of exercise, so it wasn't showing up on the outside, and it was internal. So this is the one you want to focus on and try and get people down into a nice healthy level. But do be warned, visceral fat takes time, because your body can use, the muscles will use the fat around your muscles quicker than it will use the ones around your internal organ. So it's something to focus on and understand. This takes time. It didn't happen overnight, and you need to look at customers for a long-term plan to reduce it. Now the next one, bone mass. The visceral fat, the figures are 1 to 12 is normal, so ideally is 1 to 6, up from 6 to 12 is okay, but above 12 the classed as not okay, you want to reduce it. The highest one we've had was 19, I think. And at 19 visceral fat, she had 48% body fat, so that's the highest one we've personally had. So visceral fat, you want to bring it down. Anything less than 12 is okay, and the closer to one you get, obviously the better it'll be. So the next one, bone mass. Now bone mass really is an indicator. I don't want people to miss this, but I don't want you to labour on it. If somebody's bone mass is a bit too low, don't panic them. What we tend to say is, you know what, this is an indicator of your bone mass. Sorry. and it's different for men and women. It's different for what age they are, what weight they are as well. So for an idea, £110, £165, it should be 5.3. So the reading on the scale should show 5.3 or above for a woman, between 110 and 165 pounds. If it's less than that, I mean, if it's 5.1, 5.2, 4.9, I wouldn't worry about it. But if it goes less than sort of like the 4, then I'd definitely say, do you know what, it might be worth you just pop into your doctor, say you've had a body scan done and it's picked up that your bone density might be a little bit low, and they'll do a bone density scan. It's very easy to do, it's non-invasive, but it just gives you that idea then so that people know. We had a client that was 4.1, and she was £155. At 4.1, she went and saw the doctor and said yes, she's got osteoporosis, and told about changing the diet, increasing the calcium, and we put her on extra cal, and it did pick up within the 12-week challenge. We've had other people that have been slightly low, they've had it checked and they said no, it's okay. So it really is more of an indicator. The next one, muscle mass. Now, there is no ideal figure for muscle mass, because obviously everybody's shapes are different. If somebody is athletic and going down the gym every day, then they're going to have a higher percentage of muscle. But an ideal figure for the average person would be between 60 and 70% muscle. That way it shows that you've not got too much body fat, you've got plenty of muscle to help keep your skeletal structure stable, your core stable. So that's an ideal figure to kind of go through. The bottom one, the shape 1 to 9, that's the one I was talking about before, and 5 is ideal. It shows that you have a nice amount of muscle mass and you have a nice layer of fat around it that's evenly distributed. If you get to 6, then it's a lot of muscle and not much fat. When you get down to 9, it's an incredible amount of muscle and not enough fat, so that's too low. And then the other way, 1 is it's an obese thing. It's not a lot of muscle and loads of fat everywhere. So it's more of an indicator thing that kind of shows where it's distributed. So the ideal really is a 5. 6 if they're athletic. But again, I wouldn't labour on it too much, and it's quite hard to actually see the silhouettes on there. So again, I'm going through the figures that's on there, but the ones that you need to concentrate on as well. So here's an example of one of the guys that we had. This guy is he was a 40-year-old in the police, 6'1", and quite overweight, but we went through his figures. But I want to show you how the scales can change. So he started off at 32% body fat, 287 pounds, resting metabolic rate 2,279 calories. So you imagine, right, the World Health Organization or the UK government say that the average person, male, should eat 2,500 calories a day. So this is a guy who's 6'1", 287 pounds, and his resting metabolic rate is 2,279 calories, which means if he's on 2,500 and he doesn't do any kind of exercise, he's on a weight gain program. This is why people struggle so much. They try and follow the information out there, but it's wrong. First week, after a week being on the program, he dropped to 1% body fat, 2 pounds. Now, 1% body fat is not 2 pounds, but look at the difference here. He's lost 2 pounds in weight, 1% of body fat, but you look at his muscle mass, and he's gone up to 2.5 pounds of muscle. So that's the beauty of this. This is why the scales are so good, that it shows what's happening within the body. And he keeps on losing weight and everything else, but this is the one I want to highlight here, is on week 5, or at the end of week 5, he told me that he'd had a really bad week. He'd been on special duties because of dignitaries visiting and all the rest of it. He hadn't had much on his food side. He'd been running round. It's really, really hot. He hadn't been taking all his water content in, and he was struggling. So if you look at it, the actual things have changed. So it's gone from 26 to 28%. So his body fat's gone up 2%. Yet he's lost weight. He lost 6 pounds in weight. Metabolic rate's gone down. But look at his metabolic age, it's gone from 55 to 59, so it's gone up. And here's why. His hydration's changed. So he went from 48.1 down to 44.1. So this is what I mean about the hydration as an indicator. Because that had gone up, he was then going, I can't believe that, but I know I didn't drink much and everything else, but I've lost weight. But his hydration, his body was completely dehydrated from doing loads of activity, really, really hot, and nowhere near getting the water in because there was no toilets. So they could only go to toilets on breaks, which was every 6 hours, which is why they weren't drinking the water. So that just shows you hydration-wise that it can make a difference. So don't focus on it for the clients, but understand yourself. If their readings suddenly go off, check the hydration. If it's suddenly dropped, they've had a bad week, they need to improve the hydration. 6 weeks in, look at that, 6 weeks in on the program, and he was on the top program. He's dropped 8% body fat. He's dropped 32 pounds in weight. His metabolic age has dropped 12 years. Hydration's up. Visceral fat's dropped 3 points down to 13, and he's now got 145 pounds of muscle, so he's gone up nearly 9 pounds in muscle, as well as losing the 30 pounds over here. So this is why the scales are so good. They're very, very clever, and they show things in more detail. Health and hygiene. Make sure that after every time you view the scales, obviously people have socks on, they might have bad feet, they might have athlete's feet, they might have anything. So hygiene is a very important thing. And let your clients see that as soon as they get off the scales, you get out your stuff and you clean the scales after every single person. Same if you're doing the Omron 306, the handheld one in the high street. Clean it after each person so they can see, hygiene-wise, it's clean for them to use them. Important thing, don't miss that one. And just some tips and advice. One of the biggest things you've got to understand is before you ask anybody to use one of these machines, because it's bioimpedance, it sends a little electric impulse around the body. Pregnant women, and if they have a pacemaker, they cannot have the test, especially the pacemaker, because it could interfere with the pacemaker. And the last thing you want is somebody collapsing. So really, that's in red. Get that in your head. Always remember, before anybody goes near the machine, you always ask the two questions. The reason for the pregnancy side is obviously there's going to be embryotic fluid around the baby, which will change the overall reading. So if you have a pregnant lady that has a test and it comes out really, really bad and panics, obviously it's not going to be a true reading, and that's why they can't have it. So really, really important, don't miss those two. Try not to do full readings every week, because the body takes time to change. So if people, they'll fluctuate from week to week, and then it's trying to explain everything, and then they're not understanding it. So weigh every week, measure every week. Measurements are just as important, because it shows you they're physically changing their shape. And then we recommend every 3 or 4 weeks do the full body analysis. As I say, don't lower on each reading. The main ones is obviously their weight, body fat, visceral, metabolic age, and muscle mass. The other ones are just kind of indicators. Don't do a Tanita scales reading without doing a wellness evaluation. Now this is critical if you want to build a successful business. You can either work smart or you can work really hard and still struggle. Now working smart is every time you get somebody around to do a reading, they have a wellness evaluation. That's part of the reading, so that you can go through why us, why the product, why the body needs it. So when they get a result, the scales come up that says they need to change something, we have the solution, they already understand that. The other thing is you're going to get loads more clients and loads more referrals. Always make sure you've got spare batteries. You never know when they're going to go down. Ideally, the number 2 sheet that's on the back of the tracking things, print that off, have it laminated so you've always got that there to show the graphs of where people are once they've done the thing. And at the end of every wellness evaluation, always ask, do they know anybody that might have an interest in having the evaluation done? And get them to list them down, or give them some of your details so they can pass them on. It's a very, very clever way of really rapidly expanding your business and client base by using the clients you've got, looking after them, making sure they get fantastic results, and obviously they'll be happy to recommend you. But because most people have never had one of these and find it very informative, especially when you show them what the problem with the food chain is and everything else, it's a great way of building the business. So have fun with that. There's understandings of that. I hope you've enjoyed the training.